All right, so get ready, because today we are diving deep into something different. We're diving into your August 2024 trip to Isle Royale National Park.
Exciting.
We've got your notes, we've got your recordings, even, dare I say, a peek at that spreadsheet of yours.
Someone likes to stay organized.
Hey, when it comes to a place like Isle Royale, I bet a little organization goes a long way.
Absolutely. You know, what I find fascinating here is that this wasn't just another park to check off your list. Even though by August 2024, you guys were 61 parks deep into this whole quest to hit all 63.
Wow, 61 parks.
This was different. This was a pilgrimage to one of the most logistically challenging national parks out there.
Yeah, you weren't kidding around. So you flew into Minneapolis, 5-hour drive to Grand Portage, and that's just to get on a ferry?
All right.
That's dedication.
It really speaks to, I think, the allure of Isle Royale. Because even for people like you who are practically pros at this point, Isle Royale demands something different. It's a commitment. You're choosing to disconnect, to embrace a slower pace, and honestly, you kind of have to surrender to the whims of Lake Superior.
You used the word surrender, and you weren't kidding. You kicked the Minnesota route. That's a 7.5-hour ferry each way from Grand Portage. That's not a casual day trip.
No, it's not for the faint of heart at all. And, you know, that choice, that logistical choice, I think it brings up that balance visitors have to strike, right? Between accessibility and then this true wilderness immersion.
And it's something that, a lot of parks, they grapple with that. How do you preserve the integrity of a place while also allowing people to experience it?
I
So
don't
you're
know.
staying in an Airbnb the night before just to make this 6:45 a.m. ferry.
Wow. Again, commitment. And I know from your notes there was a little anxiety about that ferry ride, especially with those weather warnings.
Oh, yeah. That feeling, that anticipation, maybe a little bit of nerves. Honestly, that's part of the journey. When you go to Isle Royale, it's this reminder that you're at the mercy of nature, especially on Lake Superior.
And I love how you describe that moment of relief, seeing the sunrise over the lake at Grand Portage and the ferry prepped and ready to go.
Oh, what a sight.
After that 7.5-hour ride, imagine that feeling, spotting the buildings of Rock Harbor emerging from the mist.
Finally, home away from home.
You even described it as comfortable.
Yeah.
Balconies overlooking the water.
Beautiful.
And of course, the all-important detail, limited food options.
Right.
Bringing your own snacks. It's a recurring theme I've noticed. Well, it speaks to those unique challenges and rewards. You're choosing to disconnect, to immerse yourselves in a very wild environment. But it means trading certain conveniences for that privilege.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're finally on this ferry, heading towards this island. You described the open water as being a bit rough at first, but then this sudden calm as you got closer, almost like crossing some kind of invisible threshold.
I love that description. And it's interesting because you mentioned from the ferry, the landscape felt kind of, well, uniform, despite that dramatic shoreline.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's a common observation. It speaks to the island's unique geology.
Okay, so on your one full day there, you managed to squeeze in a hike. The Stoll Memorial Trail, tell me everything.
Good choice. The Stoll Memorial Trail, I think it really embodies the essence of Isle Royale. You've got those shoreline views, you've got the dense forest, a real taste of what makes the park so unique.
You mentioned wanting to hike more to really soak in that remoteness, but feeling a bit rushed due to, you guessed it, weather concerns.
And that, that ties into another interesting observation you both made, this desire for solitude. In a place that is literally designed for solitude, and yet finding yourselves surrounded by other people at the lodge, on the trails,
Yeah.
it's like this paradox of popular remoteness.
Yeah. Like, let's escape the crowds by joining the slightly smaller crowd in the middle of Lake Superior.
Exactly. And it raises questions, right, about that balance of accessibility, preservation. How do you manage those competing desires, especially in a place as special as Isle Royale?
Yeah, you're competing with other people who had the same idea. Speaking of encountering others, you met some fellow park enthusiasts, all chasing that same goal of experiencing every national park.
It's a popular goal.
You even crossed paths with someone who was one park ahead of you.
Oh, no. The pressure.
And let's not forget there was that runner who ran the entire length of the island, all 40 miles.
Can you imagine?
I mean, that's incredible. That must have left an impression, someone fully immersed in the island's wilderness while you only had a few days to experience it.
Makes you think.
So you're on this remote island, a haven for wildlife. At least that's the idea, right? But you mentioned Isle Royale was actually one of the parks where you saw the least wildlife. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's funny how that works out sometimes. Isle Royale definitely has that reputation, a wildlife watcher's paradise. But as you learn, those creatures, they don't always come out on cue.
You were really hoping to see moose and bears, right?
The elusive moose and bear. Classic.
But you mostly encountered birds.
And squirrels.
Oh, right. Those little guys.
Can't forget those bold little park inhabitants. Remember, you even joked they were the most reliable wildlife sighting in every national park, no matter how remote.
So true. Okay, besides the squirrels, the birds, you did mention one snake sighting.
Right.
But no moose, no bears.
It happens. Time of year, visitor concentration, natural cycles, it all plays a role. Sometimes, no matter how much we hope for that perfect wildlife encounter, nature's got other plans.
And speaking of nature having other plans, let's talk about that downpour during dinner at Rock Harbor, right? You described it as torrential.
Ah, yes, the skies opened up.
1 minute, clear skies, you're having a picnic, overlooking the lake, and then the next,
Damn,
dinner's over.
you're running for cover, abandoning dessert. That's serious.
That's Lake Superior for you.
Ooh.
Powerful reminder that even in the summer, you're at the mercy of the elements, especially on a huge body of water like that.
And just as quickly as it arrived, the storm vanishes. You were able to capture those incredible sunset photos that evening. The sky was just, like, transformed.
Yeah.
And you even got to experience the calm after the storm, walking around the harbor, seeing that sunken dock. It's like Isle Royale. It throws these contrasting experiences at you, moments of peacefulness, and then bam, trauma. That, my friend, is Isle Royale in a nutshell. This incredible juxtaposition of serene beauty, and then bam, nature reminds you who's boss. Unpredictable, wild at its core.
It makes you wonder if that downpour actually enhanced the experience. You know what I mean? It's like those unexpected moments, those are the ones that really become memories.
Totally. You're sitting around a campfire years later. Remember that time in Isle Royale?
Exactly. They become stories. So, circling back to this idea of remoteness, something that you are clearly drawn to, you mentioned not fully experiencing it. And this is despite the island's isolation. Why do you think that was?
Well, you're seeking solitude, right? But you're kind of bound to the logistical hubs of the park. The ferry, the lodge, the trails. You're going to bump into other people. You're sharing those spaces. It's that paradox we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Seeking solitude in a place designed for solitude, but also designed for people to experience it.
Finding that balance is tough, both for the parks and then for us as visitors, we have to navigate it too.
Absolutely. And that's why I think that story of the runner, the one who ran the whole length of the island, it resonates so strongly. He chose a different path. One that let him fully immerse himself in that wilderness, even if it meant facing the elements head on, a different way of experiencing Isle Royale.
You even mentioned wishing you could have stayed longer, maybe split your time between Rock Harbor and Wendigo. Really explore the southern part of the island. It's a different pace, and I bet it yields a very different experience.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine stepping off the beaten path, finding those hidden coves, maybe having a chance encounter with one of those elusive moose far from the crowds in the lodge.
That's an image. I can practically hear the silence of the forest, the mist rising off the lake. But let's be realistic, that kind of immersive experience, it's not always possible. And sometimes a shorter trip, it's all we can manage. So how do you find that balance? How do you maximize those precious few days in a place as wild, as challenging as Isle Royale? It's a tough one, right? How do you make the most of your time in these amazing places, especially when they take so much effort to even get to?
Well, I think it's about finding those smaller moments, those little points of connection, even if there are other people around.
Yeah.
Remember that feeling watching the sunrise over the lake?
Yeah.
That anticipation, or even just that moment when the ferry got close to the island and things got calm?
Yeah.
Those are the moments that make Isle Royale special, even if you don't see a moose.
Right. You're right. It's about shifting your focus to the little things,
Right.
to the unexpected even, like that sudden downpour.
Exactly. Who knows? Maybe that downpour, that'll be one of your fondest memories. It's the unscripted stuff, right? The things you don't expect that tend to stick with you.
It really makes you think, like, maybe I need to slow down when I travel, savor it more.
It's not just about checking a box, is it?
No, not at all. It's about those little moments of awe, and those are different for every park.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's what's so cool about a place like Isle Royale. It makes you rethink things. Your whole relationship with nature, with travel, even with yourself. It's a process.
It really is. So it makes you wonder, if you had the choice, would you pick the shorter, easier trip, even knowing you might not get that deep immersion? Or do you go all in on solitude, even if it means more planning, more challenges?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, It's a question only you can answer. But if this deep dive into your Isle Royale trip has given you some things to think about, then I think we've done our job.
I know it has for me, because sometimes the best trips, the most rewarding ones, they're the ones that push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. You got to embrace the unexpected and just find those little moments of connection, however fleeting they might be.
Well said. And who knows, maybe one day you will find yourself back on that ferry to Isle Royale, ready to find those hidden trails, to really connect with that solitude, and hey, maybe this time you'll even see a moose.
A moose encounter and a slice of that blueberry pie from the Rock Harbor Lodge. Now that's what I call a perfect Isle Royale experience. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.